Hello guys, my name is Cassian Beek and I will be doing a presentation about the artist John Constable. John Constable was born on June 11, 1776 in East Burgle, which was a small village in Suffolk, and died on March 31, 1837 in London. His parents were Golding and Anne Constable. John Constable was known as an English romantic and natural painter, painting many landscape portraits of Dedham Vale, which was the beautiful area that surrounded his home. This area of land is now known as Constable Country because of how often he painted about it. In 1821 he wrote to his friend John Fisher saying, "I should paint my own places best." Constable also told Fisher that painting is so much more. Painting is but another word for feeling. Constable hit that perfectly because with every painting, you are pouring your feelings into your work because that is what makes it special and unique to you as a painter. John Constable's father was a very wealthy corn merchant who was the owner of Flatford Mill in East Burgle that was later called Dedham Mill. Golding Constable expected John to run the business when he was older because John's older brother was mentally handicapped. So it was up to the next son, which was John. John did not want anything to do with the corn business, so his younger brother Abram took over a few years later. During this time, Constable went on many amateur sketching trips to the countryside of Suffolk that later became the subject of Constable's artwork. When he was in the countryside, Constable always said that this made me a painter, and I am grateful. There were many people that wanted Constable to go back and work at his father's mill, because art was a dangerous profession back then. But Constable eventually persuaded his father to let him pursue his dream of art, and his father even lended him a small bit of cash to get his career going. Constable entered the Royal Academy School as a trainee. He studied many old masters such as Thomas Gainsborough, Peter Paul Rubens, Claude Lorraine, and Jacob van Ruysdael. In 1803, he was exhibiting paintings at the Royal Academy. However, earlier in the year, in 1802, he refused the position of drawing master at the Great Marlow Military College because the master of the Royal Academy told him that would mean the end of his career. This is when Constable finally decided he wanted to become a professional landscape painter. He was a painter of over 500 paintings. Some of his most famous paintings were Dedham Vale of 1802 and the Hay Wain of 1821. Constable was never a very successful painter and didn't become a member of the Royal Academy until he was 52 years old. Most of his paintings were even more popular in France than they were in his homeland in England. Here are some of the paintings I decided to show and talk more about. Each of these paintings show Constable's great work as a landscape painter. You will also be able to see how Constable pours his feelings in the painting as if you are in the painting yourself. So the first painting I chose was Dedham Vale of 1802. This was one of Constable's first famous paintings. This painting was created between the French Revolutionary War and the beginning of the Napoleon War. This painting shows how closely Constable oversees nature and how detailed he paints the trees in the sky. When you look at the painting and follow the river towards the background, you will see the Dedham Church Tower. It is very small in the picture and may be hard to see, but it is the center point of the painting. The trees on the outside of the painting kind of form a frame around the Dedham Church Tower, too. The second painting I chose was Wivenhoe Park of 1816. Because many of Constable's paintings didn't sell, he had to rely on many portraits and country house works for the people who wanted them. Wivenhoe Park was in Essex and was owned by Major General Francis Slater Rebo. Slater Rebo was a friend of Constable's father and wanted a portrait done of his daughter, but Constable wanted to paint Wivenhoe Park because it became a place of peace for Constable. When you look at the painting, you can see why it was a place of peace for Constable. He makes the painting feel like it is full of life, with the sun shining down on the cows and in the meadow. You can also see a fisherman in the lake with a couple of swans. In the background you see a house, but in reality the house cannot be seen from the lake view, so it took some time for Constable to fit the house into the painting. The third painting I chose was the portrait of Maria Bicknell of 1816. Maria Bicknell was John Constable's wife, and after his painting of the Weavenhoe Park, it allowed him to get extra money to finally marry Maria. In this painting of his wife, you see how soft and warm the colors are that he uses. It really shows how tender and how much he cared about his wife. The fourth painting I chose was Flatford Mill of 1816 and 1817. This painting was first named seen on a navigable river, but then it was renamed to Flatford Mill in 1819. Constable painted this about his father's mill. In the painting, it shows how the people worked at the mill with horses pulling barges in towards the shore. It also shows many trees along the riverbank, which was one of the reasons why Constable wanted to paint it. This painting was also never sold in Constable's lifetime. The fifth painting I chose was the Hay Wain of 1821. This painting was also one of the most popular paintings of Constable's work, besides the Dedham Vale. Although it was one of his most famous landscape paintings, no one wanted to buy it when it was shown at the Royal Academy in Britain in 1821, but it was then honored in France instead. This painting also demonstrates a working painting like the Flatford Mill. In this painting, we can see a wagon crossing in the river, or in the water, towards a cottage that was owned by Willie Lott, which still stands today just as it appears in the painting. The sixth painting I chose was Salisbury Cathedral, from the Bishop's Ground of 1823. When Constable met John Fisher in 1798, he became Bishop of Salisbury in 1907 and always invited Constable to the cathedral. This is where Constable got his idea to paint the cathedral. The painting shows the cathedral in the background where the sun seems to shine bright on it. Towards the front of the picture, we see a pasture of cows grazing, and in the left corner, we see Fisher and his wife looking at the cathedral. This painting was original painted with a dark cloud over the cathedral, but Fisher wanted Constable to change that to make it appear more sunnier and bright, as you can see in the picture on the slide. The seventh painting I chose was The Lock of 1824. In this painting, it shows a man in a red coat trying to open the lock at Dedham to let a boat in, but appears to be struggling. We can also see that there is another man, with his horse and dog trying to dig for something. We of course do not know what. In the distance, we see the famous tower of Dedham Church. The painting is also framed by large trees that start to darken the sky. This painting was the only painting that was sold when it was originally exhibited at the Royal Academy in 1824. The last painting I chose was Hadley Castle of 1829. This was a painting that Constable showed as cold and dark, because he was very devastated by the death of his wife a year earlier, in 1828. Constable has seen Hadley Castle before in 1814, but when he sketched the painting in 1829, it showed nothing but ruins of the castle. We even see in the background of the painting that the landscape also appears to be dry and raggedy, just like the castle does. The sky also looks very dark, like a cloud of smoke, and this maintains the melancholic mood that Constable portrays. As you can see, most of John Constable's paintings show many of his most memorable places in his life where he lived. You can also see that in every painting, he poured all of his feelings into it and portrayed very well as to how he felt, whether he felt happy or sad. This allowed you as a viewer to instantly feel how he felt painting these paintings because each painting was showed with great mastery. These are the sources I used for my presentation. Thank you for listening.